you. Now it's time for our webinar. I'd like to introduce Jade Staiano from Be Authentic Social. She is a LinkedIn specialist, encouraging her clients to find their own authentic voice and build a strong and profitable network on the platform. With a background in policy and government communications, she now uses her skills more creatively. She has 3 children who keep her busy. She loves to read and cycle and cook. So over to you, Jade.
Thank you. And thank you for having me. Really enjoyed being here today. I am going to be talking about LinkedIn, which is my favorite social media platform. And what I want to start talking about is why might we want to use LinkedIn? Well, brands are perceived as being more professional, more intelligent, higher quality, and more respectable when their advert was seen on LinkedIn. And that it goes the same for individual professionals, entrepreneurs, business owners. LinkedIn is a professional platform. People are in a mind to do business when they're on LinkedIn. And so we want to take advantage of that by being, creating a good presence on LinkedIn. 90% of LinkedIn users do not post any content and prefer to scroll through the content of others. And that means that it's really actually very easy for us to stand out from our competition, to get more visibility on LinkedIn if we're using the platform in the right way, because lots of people aren't doing that. They're just lurking or doing a bit of stalking. They're not really using the platform to its full capacity. So why would you want to grow your network on LinkedIn? Well, firstly, of course, we're all looking for new clients. Secondly, we might want to find collaborators, people to work with, to partner with. We want to position ourselves as an expert, and LinkedIn is a great place to do that because you can share all sorts of content that shows that you know what's going on in your industry, that you've got a really, you can share your brand values, your brand personality, and really come across as an expert in your field. And then you might also want to strengthen your offline business connections. You do networking offline. You can then connect with those people online and kind of, you might not be in the room with them, but you can keep momentum going with those connections, and also discover industry insights and new voices. LinkedIn is a great place to not only find like-minded people, but also find diversity of thought. And you might find people that you haven't considered before. You can keep up to date with what's going on in your industry, and just find some really interesting conversations to be a part of. So the basics of how LinkedIn works, most people will know this, but you are in the center of your network. You have all your first connections, the people that ideally that you know, but we all know there's cold calling and all that kind of stuff. But ideally people that you know and you've done business with. And then your second connections who are just slightly outside that circle. And then you also have your followers and people that you follow. Now, when you post content on LinkedIn, your first connections, and only a small percentage of them, will see the content that you're putting out. So that's why it's good to have a good large audience, so that LinkedIn pushes it out and it shows it to lots of different people. But there is a limitation. And so actually posting content, while it's a lot of people's priority, isn't the best way really of making the most of LinkedIn. You also have to have an engagement strategy where you are reaching out and commenting on other people's posts. Because when you comment on other people's posts, it's not just your first connections that can see that. Also, the first connections of the person that posted the content can see it as well. So every time you comment on somebody else's post, you are automatically enlarging your network and having a chance to connect with people who aren't your first connections, people who don't know about you yet. They don't know about your great products and services. And you're giving yourself an opportunity to be seen by them, because when we comment intelligently and with something that's really valuable to add to the conversation, they will see your face, your profile shot, and they will also see your headline, which describes what you do. So when you're commenting, it means that it's just you're growing your network, and you start to gain visibility, and you will stand out from your competition. So commenting is beneficial for both you and the person who posted the content in the first place. The power of a comment. Comments build relationships and genuine connection. They show that you're interested and that you want to build your network. Comments are 4 times more powerful than just liking someone's content. And these are all really good reasons, actually, by the way, of creating engaging content that other people want to engage with, because this goes both ways. When you're commenting on somebody else's post, you're helping them. If you get comments on your own post, LinkedIn likes that, and it will promote your post as well. So 4 times more powerful than just getting a like. A comment that's more than 5 words can mean up to an 8% boost in visibility for that post. Commenting on your own post first, which I know some trainers advocate, but actually it results in a 20 to 40% downgrading of your post. So not as many people will see it, and LinkedIn doesn't like it. So the bottom line is actively engaging with your connections, and the content means that you will experience more interaction on your own post. So as I've said, LinkedIn is a big believer in using LinkedIn as a proper network. It's not just for promoting yourself. It's not just for broadcasting. It's for actively engaging with other people and building a genuine network that isn't sleazy, that isn't salesy, but that is genuinely supportive of other people. And you will find that you will find leads and inbound leads. And that stats come from Richard van der Blom, who is really useful, and I suggest following on LinkedIn. He does a lot of testing of the algorithm, and so you can get reliable information from him, not just kind of hearsay. So how do we find interesting content to comment on? I hear you cry. Hashtags are one way that you can do that. So when you go onto LinkedIn, you can put the hashtag in the search bar. This is the mobile, but obviously on the desktop, it looks slightly different. But you can put a hashtag in and you can find all sorts of hashtags to follow. You can follow up to 100. I don't suggest that you necessarily do that, but pick key content, key hashtags that are strategic to the kind of connections that you want to make, industry hashtags, conversational hashtags. You can also connect with some industry leaders or follow industry leaders. You don't actually have to connect with people now on LinkedIn. You can just follow them, which is great because it means you can start to build a relationship without having to construct, a message of connection or anything like that. Follow some key industry leaders. Also, find your super connectors. Now, this is not, lots of people use this term. I didn't come up with it myself, but super connectors are people who are active on LinkedIn and who are also have in their audience similar people to similar client base. So they are speaking to people that you want to be speaking to as well. And by finding super connectors and commenting on their posts, your message is getting out to their audience. And if their audience is aligned with your audience, then guess what? You're enlarging your network and you're finding people who could potentially be clients. And also mute is needed. Just taking a few minutes a day when you go on LinkedIn, having a look at your feed, what comes through that home feed, and taking a moment to unfollow people if they're really not relevant, or at least mute them, is really beneficial because it means that it will create space for more interesting content. One of the biggest complaints I hear from business owners and clients is that they go on LinkedIn and they can't find anything interesting to comment on. And so by doing some of these things, by following relevant hashtags, industry leaders, and muting people who aren't necessarily sharing relevant content, you'll make lots of space and you'll start to see new content coming through on your feed, which will make it a much more enjoyable process for you. So as I said, a super connector is somebody who is active on LinkedIn, but also has an ideal client that is similar to yours. So not in competition with you, but somebody who is aligned with your values. So for me, as a social media trainer, I like to think about who else is my client going to outsource to. And often the first thing actually they'll outsource is to an accountant to do their books. Second may come social media training. Along with that, they may employ freelance writers, brand consultants, brand photographers, life coaches, business coaches, anybody who's going to support a small business. So those people, if they're active on LinkedIn, they are also trying to build an audience that is similar to mine, and we can help each other by amplifying each other's messages. And these are the kind of people that I would be looking to as super connectors. In your business, you may be looking at actually social media trainers are really good people for a lot of small businesses, because social media trainers touch a lot of businesses and they put out a lot of valuable content. They're always on LinkedIn. And so there'll be a lot of things that you can engage with, conversations you can engage with, posts, etc. So what makes a good post? So you've done all your commenting, as I've suggested, but you actually do want to put out some content. So what makes a good post? Well, first of all, having a good hook. Something that is going to get on LinkedIn, with every post, they kind of truncate it. So you only get really the top couple of lines to make a really good impression, and then someone might click see more. to read the rest of your post. Using a hook, not something salesy or clickbaity, but genuinely using that curiosity gap, or creating a bit of like, oh, I wonder what that is they're talking about. I tend to use a headline often, especially if I'm talking about a new LinkedIn feature or some training that I'm doing, making it really clear who it is that I'm talking to and what I'm providing, so that people know what that is and they want to see more about it. A post conversational as well, as I've talked earlier about the importance of likes, comments on your posts in terms of boosting your position in the algorithm. So making sure your content is conversational and invites people to actually respond, it's not just one-sided, is really important. Use one thought per sentence and write in short paragraphs. Our eyes can't, especially digitally, we don't like lots of text bunched together. It's really difficult to read. Make it punchy and kind of scannable. So when someone looks through, so you might want to use emojis to create a list. You might want to break it into 1, 2, 3, anything that will just help people really help their eyes and help them digest that information, not just in one lump paragraph. Tag people appropriately. Only tag people if it's genuine and if you think they're going to respond. If you tag people and they don't interact with your post, we're not entirely sure, but it looks like it probably downgrades it. So make sure you're tagging people who are likely to respond. But it's a great way to boost engagement with a post, actually, because you can, for example, you've been to a networking meeting, posting a picture online and saying, oh, I had a great time with all of you guys, and tagging the people that were on there is a brilliant way to increase the engagement on your post. Always have a goal in mind when you're posting. So what do you want people to do at the end, and include a really clear call to action. You can actually start with the call to action, and it might help you focus as you write your post, and then finish with the hook that's going to bring people in. So almost writing it backwards, but have a clear call to action. And that doesn't always have to be book in with a discovery call. That could be a variety of things, like download my freebie, visit my website, comment below if you've got a question. Vary your call to action to see what actually people respond to. The key is to get engagement on your posts, and so giving people a really easy way to respond, not asking them to, I often say, oh, what are you struggling with? Well, no one's going to post on LinkedIn what they're struggling with. They're only going to post things that make their business look good and make their brand look good. So have a think about how brands want to present themselves, how business owners want to present themselves, and then give them the opportunity to do that. People love to be helpful. They like to be funny. So anything that gives them an opportunity to do that is going to be a great post. So some ways to build your network without having to do kind of cold messaging. Follow super connectors, build relationships with them. You can always build a relationship by commenting a lot, and then when you think you've built some traction, then you can message them and say, look, I'd love to connect, your posts really resonate with me, I find them really useful, and people pick up on that genuine nature of that connection. Also have a look at your offline connections. There may be people that you meet regularly in business, suppliers or other companies that you work with. Send connection requests to them and build your network organically like that. Make valuable comments. Don't just put thanks for sharing or that's great. Actually take the time to read the post and contribute something to the conversation, and then take it to the DMs when you've got first connections who you think you'd like to just go back and say, oh, I haven't seen you for a while, how are you doing, how's the business doing? Be supportive of the other people in your business community. That little connection, you never know, it might actually put you top of mind next time they're asked for a recommendation, or next time they need your services or your product. And always reply when you have put a post out and people take the time to comment on it. Make sure that you reply. It's just a nice way of making them feel like they've been heard and appreciated, and it gives you an extra chance to build that relationship. And finally, use the bell. This is a new tool that LinkedIn have given us. When you go to somebody's profile and follow them or connect with them, you'll see the little bell at the top right of their profile. And if you click on that bell, it will then notify you every time they put out any content. So it's a great way if you want to target a few people at a time, just to build relationships with them, and you don't always remember to go and check their stuff. This is a way of automatically putting it into your feed, so that when you go on LinkedIn, it will prompt you to engage with their content. So if you're looking to build relationships with some super connectors, or perhaps you've got some prospects that you're working on, use the bell and use that automation just to help you remember to engage with them. And finally, my biggest plea is to please complete your profile. There's no point in doing all the hard work that I've talked about beforehand if someone then clicks on your profile and you haven't got a nice headshot, you haven't got a background cover, you haven't filled in your most recent experience. And you can also very simply and easily make a company page. You can see here I've done that with Be Authentic Social. Very easy to do. I can send you the links if you like, and it will explain it. But it just makes you look that much more professional when someone clicks onto your page and actually, thinks about working with you. You can make use of the featured section as well, which is a great place to, as you can see, you can connect to posts or articles. You can add links to your website. You can upload photos. I use it to upload testimonials and things that are just it's a little bit of a space for you to use as like a bit of a billboard, get your message out there. If someone's coming to your profile, then they probably are quite interested in what you do and what services you offer. So make it easy for them to spot that. So here's my quick daily 15-minute routine. As you can see, check for notifications, check who's viewed your profile, send out connection requests if you need to, check your messages. And then the key bit is finding 5 posts to comment on and engage with more than 5 words. And then once a week, maybe use that search function to find your ideal clients, ideal connections, and then share a piece of content. And if you want some ideas for content, if you head to my website, you can sign up and you can get a downloadable that includes this 15-minute daily routine, but it also gives you, I think there's about 20 different ideas for content on there as well. So you might find that useful. Anyway, thank you for having me. I hope that was a very, very speedy run through of LinkedIn and some ways to use it that aren't just, I hate the fact that some entrepreneurs go onto LinkedIn and they end up spending so much time and wasting time and they're not actually engaging. So having a clear strategy, having a purpose when you go on LinkedIn will make it a much more enjoyable experience and make it more profitable in the long run. Thank you.
Thanks, Jade. And we do have some questions. So you mentioned about when you post, only a small percentage of your people that you've connected with, your first connections, will see that post. If you have a company page and you have followers on that company page, do all the followers see your post?
No, you would have to post separately to the company page for them to see it. But yeah, no, company pages, again, it'll only go to a small percentage of your followers on your company page. So LinkedIn seems to use like a 2-hour sort of window. If in those 2 hours you get comments, likes, shares, comments are like the king. And then underneath is kind of likes and shares. If you get comments, then it will push it out to more people. Otherwise, after 2 hours, it will start to not show it to people. I think most people notice on LinkedIn content lives for a lot longer. So if a piece of content is getting engagement and is a LinkedIn thing, oh, this is a valuable piece, you can see it a week, 2 weeks later, it might pop up in your feed. And also people aren't on LinkedIn as often as they are on some of the other platforms. So, it's saved up for when they come on here. So yeah, the key is really getting engagement in those first 2 hours. Otherwise, not everyone will see your content.
Okay. One of the other new things that I've seen in LinkedIn are surveys, to the point where some people are now commenting that they don't want to see any more surveys. What's your advice with regards to putting a survey out there and whether they have real impact with regards to building your following?
Yeah, they were very, very popular for a while and every second post was a poll. But actually LinkedIn have said they're not promoting that anymore, or that's certainly what the Richard van der Blom recently kind of suggested, that the algorithm isn't favoring polls anymore. So you will start to see way less of them. I think only use them if they're going to genuinely help you or help your business, help your clients. If they're just irritating, people get fed up with them. What is doing well at the moment is document posts, and that is basically PDF. So anything that is in a PDF format, uploading that as a document post is proving very popular. So you can kind of make it look like it's like a visual blog, really, like we call it a carousel on Instagram, but just a series of images in a square format. If you upload those as a PDF, they're getting lots of engagement and are being pushed quite heavily at the moment.
And the last one, there seems to be a lot of competition with different social platforms. And I'm thinking particularly on Facebook. There seems to be a lot of people on LinkedIn that consider themselves, this is not my expression, but they're called the Facebook police. And a lot of people will say this content isn't suitable for LinkedIn, this is a professional platform, this should be on Facebook. What's your view in regards to that?
I think people want to buy from people, and and I think as if there's the problem, not the problem, the benefit of posting more personal content is it gets way more engagement, and so then more people have a chance of seeing your message. There are things that I definitely would put on Facebook that I would not put on LinkedIn. I think there's an opportunity for a bit of sharing who you are and your personality, and then but always linking it back to business. It would be my advice. But I think there is space for it, and I think if people have got time to keep commenting, this isn't for LinkedIn, then they should just move on, just scroll on past if it's not for you, if you don't want to read about it. Yeah, I think you need to curate your home feed to show you interesting content that you want to see. Take responsibility for that, and let other people do them, and you can do you.
I've just had one more. This honestly is the last question. I've been using LinkedIn to advise people. One of the things that's happening this year is the digital telephone service is being switched off. So PSTN is being switched off starting this year and completing in 2025. So I wrote a blog post, put it in a PDF, set it as attachment, and have been connecting with people and saying, are you aware of this? And most people perceive that content in the way it was intended. However, I did have an email back from one person that read it telling me that you shouldn't sell on LinkedIn, to which I did respond and said, thank you for the feedback. My point wasn't to sell, it was to notify. But if that leads into a conversation with regards to what we need to do, quite happy to have that conversation. What's your suggestions in regards to perhaps unintentionally upsetting people with your content?
I think you can only apologize if it's been received in the way that it wasn't intended. I think using private messages in the way that you have is ideal, really, because you're providing value. You're not trying to sell, but we're all on there to do business. So to say that you shouldn't sell on LinkedIn is a total nonsense. And I think that's a really good way of using private messages, because you're connecting with people and you're reacquainting them with the services that you offer in a way that's valuable. And I think, there's a lot worse to be complaining about on LinkedIn. I know that there's a lot of, DMs that are totally inappropriate, and bots, or, content that's not appropriate for the workplace, discrimination, etc. So, I think you just have to move on.
Okay.
Thanks for your feedback. Move on.
Okay. Well, that was brilliant. And thank you for that. We're obviously going to be recording this and putting it out on our LinkedIn page. So thank you for your time today, Jade, and hope to see you again at one of our meetings.
Absolutely. I'll be back next month. Sure.